Hey, Jennifer, what was the original dream when you started sharing online? Was it like always about productivity, tech, and lifestyle?
Actually, it was more related to my username. It was supposed to be about vegan food and travel because that's where I was a digital nomad and I still am. So I worked in marketing for an education startup and I was supposed to post about all my travels and all the delicious vegan food that I found in my travels. But it was so hard to edit the travel videos. So I ended up just making tech and productivity content, which was way easier and more fun to make. And I didn't set out to get a lot of followers or make this my career or anything, even though I was like, that would have been nice. It was actually because marketing was my job, so I copy pasted everything I did for the company because I grew their account, and I did it for myself because I was like, if I leave the company, which I left by force because I was laid off, um, if I leave the company, then all of the following that I built for them is gonna like it's not mine anymore. So I wanted to do it for myself, but also because my friends keep asking me for like, oh, how do you set up this thing in Notion? How do you do that? So I was like, okay, let me just post it. So in the future, if people keep asking me, I'll just send them the link instead of constantly having to explain.
Mhm.
And then I accidentally went viral after posting for a bit. And then now this is like my full time thing.
Yeah, that's a cool story that it wasn't actually the purpose. W- Are there big differences between growing a company profile and growing like a personal profile?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for the company profile, I think I kind of wanted other people on the team to appear in the videos because actually when I went viral, I got a few comments and people were like, "Hey, you're that girl from like the company's page." And I was like, "Oh, I feel like growing the company's page and then it's just my face is not really effective because of course when I leave then like what are they gonna do?" It was a small startup as well. So now their account is just not active and there's no posts anymore. So I would say a big difference is like people knowing my name and like more about my personality. Whereas with the company account, it was all like, hey, this is our course and our product. Like I'm just the person who talks about it. And it's
Mhm.
not just it's less about me as a person and more about the product. Whereas for my own page, it's like people are like, "Oh, I don't care what you post. I follow you for the energy," which is so nice.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that's cool. When you were laid off, were you was it like your immediate thought like, "Okay, I'm going to go all in or full time on my own brand," or was there like a point in between that?
Yeah, so actually when I was laid off, it wasn't like a bad thing. Like we left on good terms. What happened was we relied on Facebook ads too much and then when our Facebook ads account went down, like there was some mistake or something and then they temporarily banned us. I don't really know what happened, but um we didn't have revenue coming in for like a few weeks while Facebook was trying to sort everything out. So we relied too much on that paid ads channel and so we didn't have any money to pay anyone, so I was laid off. And I was actually in the middle of traveling when that happened, and I still had like months to go left on my trip because I was traveling for like 5 months. And I was like, okay, it doesn't really make sense for me to look for another job at this point because, like, what kind of job can I find that would still let me travel and work remotely? And then, like, especially during the onboarding period. So I was like, okay, let me just take a break. So I guess I liked working on my own thing too much because I didn't actually take a break, and I worked on a course because I finally had time for it, and then that I used to make like 6K Canadian dollars at my previous job per month, and then I remember when I launched my course on the day of the deadline to purchase, I made 6K on that day. And that was so shocking to me because I was like, "Oh wow." I it's very hard to replicate that again, like 6K in one day. But I was like, that was the first time I realized like, wow, like this is possible to do on my own. So after that, I just kept going with my own thing. But then I remember I was crying in a hotel bed in Japan once because a few months after that, I was like, "Oh my god, it's tax season," and my accountant was calling me up like, "Hey, you have to pay, like, all this money." And I was like, I can't call my bank. I can't call the Canadian government revenue agency because I'm literally in Japan. And luckily, I had enough in my bank account to cover everything. But like that was also when I learned that when you have your own business, you have to set aside money for taxes and stuff because it's not deducted from your paycheck. Because I mean, you pay yourself. So all the money
Mhm.
that I made actually was not even mine. It was my business's. So it got really complicated, and my account really helped me. But yeah, it's been a roller coaster of up and downs.
Mhm. Yeah, it must be an expensive lesson, I can imagine. But it's really cool to hear that you go from making 6,000 Canadian dollars in 1 month to in 1 day. Your course is about gamifying, um, life tracking and productivity. Where did that idea come from?
Yeah, so actually, when I first started posting, before I went viral, I had a lot of friends tell me, like, oh, the stuff that you do to track your life is really cool. Because I guess they've never seen anybody track their life to the detail that I do. This actually started in like 2015. I journaled every single day. So it's been more than 10 years, and I've always journaled every day. And then in 2017, I started counting how many times I poop per day just for the jokes, and then also how many potatoes I ate per day, and then I just kept that counter going, and it's been, like, from 2017 to now, except, of course, the counter changed, like, I got a lot more detailed with the tracking. I started tracking other stuff as well, like all my habits. And then I posted about it on TikTok, and then it didn't go viral the first few times, actually, and I was like, "I know there's something here," because when I'm at events talking to strangers, everybody says that's so cool, and then they ask me a lot of questions about it. So I was like, "Let me keep trying again and again. Maybe the videos need to be better, maybe I need to get better at hooks." So I actually posted videos about my marathon training vlogs for, I think, 2 months, and I stayed consistent with that for the entire 2 months every single day because that was actually what was easiest for me. So after that, I got better at video editing, and you can really see the difference between the first video and then the last video. So then after I was done all the marathon stuff, I was like, "It feels weird to not post a video, so let me put one together about this, um, life tracking stuff and then see what happens." And then it didn't go viral on TikTok. And then a few months later, I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I should try Instagram. So I downloaded all my TikTok videos and I scheduled them out on Instagram. And it was so hard because it was like a bunch of boring admin work. So I set up a co-working session with my friend and then we both just did our boring admin work at a cute cafe. So it was more fun. And then that's when I went viral. And then I've been getting requests because, like, when I went viral, I didn't have anything prepared, but everybody was like, "Please, I need to learn how to do this. Can you make a tutorial? Can you make a course or, like, a template or something?" So then I quickly whipped one up because I kept getting so many comments about it, and then after that, I didn't have time to make a course because I was still working and, like, traveling and stuff. So, a few months after when I got laid off, I finally had time to make a course teaching everything I knew about tracking my life and how it can help me live more intentionally. Only for people who are like me, because some people are like, oh, they don't need to track their life, but some people are like, I can't remember anything about my month, so they have to track to really feel more grateful and like instead of just always moving forward, they can go look back and reflect. So then that's what the course was about. And I ended up making a few other courses, but I didn't make a big deal out of them as much. Um, and yeah, that's how it started.
Mm. Wh- What kept you from making a big deal of your other courses?
Yeah, so it was a lot of mindset stuff, which I had to realize after like a year of doing this. So for the life tracking stuff, I was like, this is so cool. Like I know it's cool because people have asked for it. But then I started noticing in the life tracking course, a lot of people wanted to build their own businesses and a lot of them wanted to be content creators. And they were looking for help with like building their personal brand and like short form video and stuff, and I was like, "Wait, I can help with that because I have a background in marketing and psychology, and I built multiple brands, multiple of my videos and different niches have gone viral, like for my personal account, my previous company's account, and my vegan tech nomad account." So I was like, "I can probably do this." And then I just wanted to test it out, but then I also had this limiting belief that, like, okay, if I went viral a few times and then I saw a course about how to build your personal brand, how to go viral and stuff, like, people are gonna be like, "Oh, she's just another guru trying to sell stuff," but then it's like the only way she makes money is through, like, teaching other people how to make money, and I was like, "Oh, I don't wanna be seen like that," so then I didn't promote it as much, but then now looking back, I'm like, "Oh, I feel like I should just be more secure in myself," and then that's part of what I teach in my course. But I also struggled with a bit of perfectionism because every time, like, no matter how much good feedback I get on my courses, I'm thinking like, "Oh, I wanna, like, remake the courses and make them better." So, I might still do that. It's a lot of work, but we'll see how it goes.
Mhm. Yeah, it's nice to hear you mention about the limiting belief of not wanting to be perceived like a how to make money type of coach. Um, I think it's for one, for me, it's very relatable. I'm not a coach myself, but I work with these types of people, and I've decided for myself, like, I'm not going to work with how to make money coaches because they make me insecure. So I can definitely imagine why you don't want to be perceived like that. Did you ever, or did it cross your mind, like, I'm not coaching people on how to make money, so I shouldn't feel like this, or that only came afterwards?
Yeah, that's a good question. And actually, I only started asking myself that when I went to this event, and it was so wild how I got the invite to this event. So I went viral, and then I was traveling across Canada, and one of my followers saw that I was in Toronto. I don't broadcast my location anymore, but it's like sometimes I respond to DMs if I see them. I don't always see all my DMs, but like by chance, I happened to see this person's message to me and she was in Toronto, so we actually met up because she was one of my followers. I actually meet up with some of my followers when I travel, if I DM them a bit, but I met up with her and then she happened to work for a Stan store, and a few months after that, she invited me to Stan Store's Collab Fest event, and I flew down to LA to attend, and it was so good. I met a lot of people with, like, millions of followers, attended panels and stuff, and I approached one of these people with millions of followers and asked her because she made a, like, manifestation course in 3 days, and that made her over $1,000,000. So I asked her, like, "How did you do that? Like, what were some limiting beliefs you had and stuff?" And then she pointed out to me that I had a limiting belief because I told her that I was kind of stuck between 2 directions, the life tracking productivity stuff and the, like, ADHD business owner marketing stuff. And I was like, I feel like I have to go with the marketing stuff because I do enjoy it, but also like when you help people make more money, it's more the return on investment is more clear. So they're more likely to pay you. Whereas if I'm helping people get more productive and like save their time, like it's a bit more abstract. And she was like, well, not necessarily. That's just like your own belief. And then when I thought about it, I was like, wait, you're right, because I charge more for my money making course than for my life tracking course because of that belief. So when I did that, it kind of was a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I was like, oh, this is the evidence to support my belief. But really, it was that my limiting belief led to that evidence. So now I'm like, oh, maybe I need to like open up my thinking a bit more.
Mhm, mhm. Did you, after that convo, raise your price on the live tracking course?
I didn't because it was already like raised. And what was so funny is I learned about like pricing psychology, even though I knew it, but I didn't believe it until I saw it. So what happened was when I first launched my life tracking course, there was like a more discounted price for everybody who joined early, and it was 199 USD. But then I everybody was messaging me like, "Oh, this is too expensive. Can you give me a discount code?" So I actually raised my price to 299 because I told everybody like, this is a limited time pricing. So I raised it to 299 USD. And then when people said, okay, it's still too expensive, then I gave them a discount code that kind of lowered the price back down to like 199 or like 150-ish. And then I stopped getting complaints about like, "Oh, this is too expensive." But I was like, "Okay, when I gave you the price outright, everybody said it was expensive, but when I gave a higher price and then discounted it, then people stopped saying that it was too expensive and then actually
Mhm.
purchased using the coupon code." So I was like, "Hmm." It's like the perception of value here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a super interesting experiment. Uh, if something's more expensive, then you're thinking like, damn, it's gonna be more valuable. There's definitely a lesson in that to not charge your prices too little. You produce a lot of content. You have your course. You have templates as well. You mentioned that you're a digital nomad, so you're on the road a lot. How do you structure your times so that you can do everything and still enjoy being out and about?
Yeah, so my schedule is actually pretty flexible, and I feel like I don't work that much unless I want to or I enjoy it. So a lot of the time when I'm out by myself, I'll just find a cool cafe and then work from there and then go explore and then eat at a restaurant and then I can pull out my laptop sometimes and work while waiting. There's actually a lot of times where I'm just waiting and then I pull out my phone and then I open my Notion and start working, or like I pull out my Instagram and start responding to DMs and stuff. Or like if I feel randomly inspired while traveling, like I'll pull out my phone and start filming right there on the street. But then the audio isn't great, so I might like refilm it later. Um I feel like a lot of people think that I'm, like, super productive every minute of the day, but that's not true because when I tried to do that, I feel like I wasn't as inspired or, like, the energy was not there. So I've seen people feel like they need to schedule their content and, like, have a whole content calendar and a plan, and I tried to do that, but I never got started because the planning was too overwhelming. Like, I just got stuck with my spreadsheet doing research because I don't like doing that admin work. And I was stuck on that stage for like 2 years and didn't start any of my own content. But then I was like, "Okay, whatever. I'm just gonna post what I think I like and what I think other people will like." And then that's when things started moving forward. I started improving my videos, and that's what I get some of my students in the content creation course to do. Like, they have to make 30 videos in well, ideally, it's 30 days, but sometimes people take longer. So it's like just getting the reps in. And for me, it's actually easier to do it instead of like I make a video every single day sometimes, but when I'm traveling, I know that my schedule is so hectic. So it's like the constant reflection and I know my habits and I know myself. So I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna be able to do my video every single day like usual. So what I would do instead is film a bunch of videos in one day. Because once I start filming, I get into that momentum and I get more inspired and I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. So I film a bunch in one day and then I schedule it out so it looks like I'm active every day and then I can relax after. And it's the same with my email newsletters. When I knew that I was traveling and busy and taking time off, I just wrote the entire month's newsletters in like 1 or 2 days and then scheduled it out. But if I'm at home usually and I know my schedule is a bit more chill and I have time to make my videos and write my newsletters, then like I'll just do it the day before the deadline, which
Mhm.
is what I usually do.
Yeah, that's pretty recognizable. You've mentioned that a lot of people oftentimes think that you're very productive. You obviously have like a lot of followers. They all have their own opinions on how you would be like in real life. Does that ever gets into your head like, oh damn, they're thinking this, so I should be more productive? Or how do you handle that?
Surprisingly, I don't really it doesn't really bother me as much, which is what I'm saying with the, like, belief in yourself because, like that, metaphor or, like, that saying where it's like a ship can only sink if water gets inside it. It's like when people say, like, "Oh, she tracks her whole life, she must have no life," or like, "This girl must be so productive, like, she doesn't have time to live," or whatever. It doesn't really bother me as much because 'cause I'm like, "Okay, I know my life," like, I don't post about my travels as much because I don't want people to know where I am, but, like, I'm like, "Okay, I obviously do have a life and, like, a lot happens." I feel like I live 3 days in one, so it doesn't bother me. But and I also know that by not being productive all the time, I feel like people can relate to that. So I'm like, okay, it's not like a bad thing that I'm not productive all the time. And like I know that myself. So like I'm secure in that. But when it comes to things like charging a lot of money or charging money for like helping other people make money, I'm like, I need to like fight really hard to get rid of that scarcity mindset where it's like, oh my gosh, like I need to just accept whatever opportunity comes my way because there'll never be another one. Or um like people are gonna say that I'm in it for the money because I'm like, I don't want to be seen as like a person who just wants to somebody to pay them for the money. Like when people ask for a refund, I just give it to them, no questions asked. Um like, there's a lot, and I know that there's, like, ways that I can be like, "Hey, this is not true," because, like, I give refunds, there's, like, risk-free guarantees, there's, like, all these other evidence, but because, like, I'm not secure in that myself, it becomes this thing where, like, when people comment stuff like that, sometimes it gets to me, so it's just something that I have to work on myself.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I can imagine. You've mentioned that productivity-wise, you don't really have issues with it. Sorry. On your sales page of like the live tracking course, you're talking about guilt-free goal setting. What does that mean, and how did you come on that approach?
Yeah, so I remember I used to always set goals and then completely forget about them. And then when the next New Year's came around, I'd be like opening up all my goal setting documents and then look at my old goals and I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot about these. I didn't do them. I feel so bad about myself right now. I should have been more consistent. But then I was like, well, I didn't really make these goals part of my habits. And if I really felt like these goals were important to me, then I would have done that. So I also knew like some of the goals that I had, it didn't really resonate with me anymore. So I was like, well, if I committed to this the whole year, I would have probably felt really bad about having to do this a lot. So what I mean by guilt-free goals is like giving yourself permission to be imperfect and also giving yourself permission to change your goals if you need to. And this is like a main takeaway a lot of people had in the course where they're like, oh, I didn't know that I could just change my goal or pick one for a few months and then change to another focus for another few months. Because a lot of people, they get super excited and they like have all these goals. And I'm like, you can't do that. You need to focus on one and then focus on it for like a week or a few months and then change to another goal and then focus on that. So a lot of people feel guilty because they set too many goals and then they forget about them or they get overwhelmed because it's just too much. So a way of making it less guilty or like feeling less guilty and be more consistent is just focusing on one and then changing the focus or like changing the goal to be like to fit into your life stage because I built these systems for when I was in high school and obviously, like, I'm not in high school anymore, so my systems had to change and my goals had to change. So I basically teach people like this is how you think about this, so you can build systems that work for you. And also this is what I use, so like you can take some inspiration for it. And when they build systems that actually fit with their life, like if they're traveling or busy moving or changing jobs or whatever, then they're more likely to stick with it and feel less guilty about themselves.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I agree. That's a very interesting approach. Uh, you're building an education business that has ups, it has downs. It's probably a roller coaster. Do you have some habits or some other things that you use to keep yourself grounded?
Yeah, so I track a lot of stuff in my business because it was funny. A lot of people said that I basically treat my life like a business, but then of course I took inspiration from, business marketing to track my life, but then I never actually applied the same life tracking stuff to my business. So sometimes, I look at my business and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, there's so much that I'm not doing properly." But then I'm doing it in my life. So, like, in my life, I reflect every day, month, week, month, quarter, and year. and, quarterly reviews and stuff, that's like a business thing. But I only do it for my life. I don't do it for my business. So when I realized that, I started doing the same systems for my business, and it made it a lot more helpful for me, because before I was like, I don't know how much money I made. I don't know like if people are even looking at my page and converting to paying users or converting to email subscribers. Like I didn't really know much about my business numbers. But after I implemented these systems, like the same ones for my life into my business, I was like, oh, I see why people do this now. Like it actually works. And then when I have more visibility over all my numbers, I'm like, oh, I made a lot of mistakes. I should have looked at these numbers sooner, because an example is I was making a bunch of free templates, and then I looked at this and I was like, okay, I spent, because I track my time 24/7 so I can see the return on investment in my time. So I was like, I spent like 2 hours making this free template, but only like three people put their email in to download it. So I was like, I should not have spent that much time on this. And like, why am I spending so much time promoting this template when nobody's even interested? So then I look at this other template and I was like, wow, thousands of people downloaded this. I didn't know it was that popular because I only posted about it once. Because sometimes the video views, I don't even go back and check those. I don't check how many people are commenting link to get the link to my freebies. So I'm like, oh wow, I really need to check these numbers so I can post more content that people actually want and are asking for.
Mhm. And do you reflect every day, every week, month, quarter, life and business?
Well, life, yes, but sometimes, well, what I teach in my course is like consistency is not like never missing a day. Consistency is more like going back to it, because let's say like for an entire week I went on some meditation retreat and I couldn't track anything because I don't have access to internet or any of my devices. And then after that meditation retreat in like, let's say the middle of March, 1 week in March, I'm like, okay, well, now all my tracking is like a mess. I can't go back to it. And then for the rest of the year, I stopped tracking. And then at the end of the year, that's when I usually look back on all my tracking and do my reflections. I'm like, wow, why did I stop in March? I should have just gone back and kept going. Because the 1 week in March, technically, when you look back on the rest of the year, it doesn't really matter as much. So if I had gone back and been like, oh, let me go back to tracking now that I'm back home and have access to all my tracking stuff and to the internet, then it's like, well, you can just go back to it. And so a lot of people, when they are faced with the 1 week or a few days or a few months where they're busy and traveling, they're like, "Oh, I ruined my streak. I can't go back to it. Like my streak has to be perfect." I'm like, "No, you need to change your mindset around that, because when you go back to it, that's what matters in the long run." And in psychology, we're taught like the recovery stages, it's not linear, and relapse is part of recovery. So like of course there's going to be some days where you're super busy, you're super tired, you will have to miss a few days, then that's okay. The important thing is to go back to it. So that's what I do for my business and my life. Some days when I'm busy traveling, I do the minimum viable action, which is I just type point form notes for my journal. Instead of writing a whole journal entry, it'll just be like one sentence or point form notes or like a voice note that I transcribe. And when I told people that in my course, they were like, oh, I didn't know that I could just write one sentence for my journal, because they didn't give themselves that permission to be imperfect or to leave things incomplete, even though I don't really think it's incomplete. So that's what I do. I don't do my monthly reflections every single month. Sometimes I'll go back and like retroactively add it. I don't do my business reflections every single day or week, especially if I know it's going to be busy and I would like take vacation, even though my whole life sometimes feels like a vacation because I'm always traveling. So it's like giving yourself that permission to be imperfect, and then you feel more motivated to get back to it. And then I find that I get a lot of insights whenever I get back to it. Like when I take a break from tracking and then when I go back to it, I feel a lot of clarity, and I'm like, I would not have gotten this feeling if I just gave up right there. So it's very important to accept imperfection and go back to like trying your best, because that's how consistency happens.
Mhm. What are the specifics of what you're reflecting on? Is it like a vast list of questions that you ask yourself, or is it very spontaneous what you're feeling that's coming up?
Yeah, there's a few different ways because this system has changed as I learn more. for my business, I have a specific list of questions. I also have questions every week. Okay, so both my business and my life, I have questions every week, month, quarter, and year to help me reflect. But for my business, is more so I reflect on my key metrics, like how many people are signing up for my email list, from which lead magnet, how much money I'm making. Like every single month, I reflect on that. And then all of this is manual, by the way, because I think people think that everything's automated and they're like, I want to spend all this time automating this. But I'm like, if I don't do it manually, then I'm not going to know because I would never check the automated dashboards and stuff. So I have to do it manually, even if it takes more time, because then it really helps me understand the numbers. Um, and then for my personal life, I do have questions that I reflect on, but I don't have questions every day. It's mostly for weeks, months, quarters, and years. For every day, I actually just have a journal entry. And then I started doing this thing where I would have like a short, top of my head entry about what happened that day. And then because it's the top of my head, I just say whatever. And then I copy paste the all my daily entries for the week with a prompt, basically telling AI to be like, hey, what are some thinking biases that I had, or like what's something that I wrote here that we could explore more for reflection. And then it gives me reflection questions and points out some flaws in my thinking or decision making or interesting observations about things that I've written. And then at the end of the week, every single week, I look forward to that analysis. So it's like that's how I'm able to stay consistent because there's some kind of reward. So I'm like, every single day I need to do this entry so that at the end of the week I can look forward to getting vibe checked by this AI.
Mhm. Yeah, that's cool. I like your views on productivity, on imperfection. Have these visions or the way you looked at that changed over the years or since you first started?
Yeah, I used to think that everything had to be perfect. Like in 2017, I actually was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to like track all of my poops and all my potatoes properly." And then I literally had like obviously there were some days where I was like, "Wait, did I like go to the toilet this morning? I don't remember because like I was thinking about other things." So then I had to just be okay with putting like a plus minus one. So like because like I wasn't sure. So then I had to just do that for my count, and then now it's, like, 2025, so I'm like, "Okay, I'm not really thinking about this stuff that happened in 2017, like, it's not that serious, it's not that important." So then I was like, "Okay, I should just give myself permission to be chill about it instead of stressing myself over something that doesn't really matter." And I feel like a lot of people stress themselves out over, like, "Oh, I need to automate all this stuff, and then I need to do this in order to track my life properly." And I'm like, well, I learned through experience that that's not true. Like, even the system that I built for my course that I teach people, or like that in the video that went viral, that's actually not accurate of like that's not my system now anymore. It's similar enough, but I had to adapt it for my life now instead of for my life a year or two ago. And that's what I try to get across in my course is that, like, you know yourself best, so you can change your system when you're going through your different life stages, like changing jobs, starting a family, traveling. And that's what I hope the key takeaway is for people, where it's like more you have to be confident in yourself that you can create the systems that work for you. Because if people are expecting me to give them a system for them, I can't do that because I don't know their life. All I can do is share my system and how I made it so then they can kind of understand that thinking and then apply that thinking for themselves because they know themselves best.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I agree. That you obviously know yourself best. Do you ever have the feeling, like, for example, you were on at this event from Stan Store, you've met a coach who made 1 million in 3 days. Do you get insecure if you talk to her and she does something differently than you? But you know that for my own best sake, this is the way that I should do it, but somebody else is doing it differently. Does that affect you?
Yeah, it used to and still does a little bit. Not the insecurity part around other people. Like, because when I talked to this person who is like a lot more successful than me, I was so inspired. It is more like admiration, respect, inspiration. Like, what can I learn from her? And that's why I have this whole database of swipe files, which is just all my screenshots and notes from different creators online. Like, if I see an ad that's actually a very well done ad, I will screen record it and save it to my swipe files, which is just also a folder on my phone because I'm too lazy to airdrop the video screen recording onto my Notion swipe files database. So I
Mhm.
have multiple swipe files in multiple locations, which is like being okay with imperfection, and like knowing what's easiest for me. But in the swipe files folder, like I'm screenshotting emails, I'm screenshotting websites from people. And I spent so long being like, I should be like them. I should have my emails written this way. I should set up my YouTube this way. And sure, like maybe I can take inspiration from them, but then I started noticing every single time I got inspired by somebody and wanted to do what they did, I abandoned my previous projects. So I was like constantly changing my mind, chasing after this new thing. And then somebody actually DM'd me that shocked me. They were like, Jennifer, like I see all of your free templates and stuff, but where can I find your paid stuff? Like I want to pay you. They didn't even know what the product was. They were just like, "I wanna give you money." And I was like, "Wait, what?" Because I came from the thinking that a lot of people just want free stuff. Because I was seeing all these other creators giving other people free stuff, so that's what I thought I had to do. But then I was like, "Wait, when I see a creator I like, I would also want to pay them to support their work. I'm not, like, always expecting free stuff." So I was like, "Wait, true. Why am I operating in this scarcity mindset?" So then after that, I was like, "Let me just focus on my own lane and, like, make a plan for myself, take inspiration from the other creators if I want, but, like, I need to stop hopping between all the different projects and stuff that I'm making." Because I realized that even if I get a lot done, not all of the things that I was doing was actually moving my business forward. This happened in my first startup that I started as well because everybody was like, Jen, you're making all these social media posts so fast. Like, I made an entire month's worth of social media posts for my previous startup, which is also in education courses. This wasn't my job. So there was like my startup, the job, and then now my own
Mhm.
business. So in this startup, people said I was so productive for doing all this, but like our Instagram posts got like 2 likes. So I was like, why? Looking back, I'm like, why was I making all these Instagram posts when I should have just focused on what actually matters, which was, taking an hour to send emails to organizations that help students so that we can partner with them and get more students. Because the social media posts also took around the same amount of time, but it's like I feel like it didn't really help us as much, and then the startup, like, I eventually, left the startup, and I think my co-founders also shut it down because we were not focused on doing the important things, and then I started seeing the same pattern in my previous job, and then my this nonprofit I used to volunteer at, and also what I'm doing right now. So, that's when I realized I need to just, like sure, I can take inspiration from other people, but I it's more important for me to stick to a plan that I made and liked in the first place.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, for sure. What does the most important thing look like to you today to keep your eyes on the prize?
Yeah, so I actually made a plan a few weeks ago, and then I took vacation because I was traveling, and the plan was basically, like, start selling more. Because right now, I don't really promote my course as much, I'm just, like, doing random things and making random content depending on what I like and what's inspiring me in life right now. But I was like, "No, I need to actually talk about my course more because a lot of people are like, they don't even know about my course, even though I feel like I talk about it a lot." And I was like, "Wait, but I'm not really confident selling the course right now because of that perfectionist mindset." Like, I wanna fix all these things about the course first. Um, so now that I'm back home, because I got back, like, yesterday, I want to work on improving the course first and then really going hard on selling the course and then go from there. So like my next 2 or 3 months are pretty much planned out already. And the day to day, I could get inspired by different creators, but like the most important thing to me right now is improving my course so that I can feel proud and secure enough to sell it again. Because I was really secure and proud of it to sell it last year when I first launched, when I made that $6,000 day. But then throughout the next few months, obviously my systems have changed. I learned new things. I'm like, oh, I want to do more. But then I read up about, like, how to make a course, and a lot of people were saying that you actually have to do less, and I noticed that I gave my students too much, so I'm like, "Okay, I need to, like, take stuff out of the course and, like, improve it as well." So, I might actually split it into 2 different courses because there was actually too much information packed into that one course, but it's, like, my top focus to figure that out every single day now that I'm back home.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, there's like a big difference between having a course a few years ago when it's really like the purpose to have as much different stuff that people can learn from you towards today where you really want to be hyper specific on one thing and be the best of it. So it's interesting to hear that you experience the same thing. Where do you
Yeah, I
see
also
the sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. One more thing I'd like to add is that I realized that it's not necessarily the information that people wanted, it was more access to me and my way of thinking. So I had just sold the course by itself, but I realized now that I should have, like, there could have been upsells and like a natural funnel. So after the course, a lot of people didn't really know the next steps, but they wanted more support from me. So I could have like had a whole coaching program or group coaching or like some other way for them to get support if they wanted to, but I didn't have that and didn't build that out. So now it's like after I improve the course, part of the improvement is going to be having this clear path for people to take because a lot of them wanted more support, but then I didn't offer any. So I need to offer them that option.
Mhm, mhm. If somebody is hearing your story, or they follow you on your socials and they have a feeling like, damn, this is something that I really would like to do with my life as well, create content, sell information products. Where would you tell them to start?
Yeah, so I actually have a bunch of YouTube videos about this, and people have asked me that. I get DMs on Instagram and all my other social media accounts, and people ask me, like, how do you get started? And I literally have YouTube videos on this, so I just link them the video. So if they ask me how I make money, like my different revenue streams, I have a video that I link them where like screen share my spreadsheets and like expose where all my money is coming from. And they can see all the charts and stuff and the return on investment in my time. So I send them to that. But right now, I would say the most important thing is like get started. So the first thing that I would do is post the 30 videos. Or some people don't want to make videos, they just want to write on LinkedIn or do something else. So then it would be like, well, write 30 LinkedIn posts or write 30 newsletter articles. I wouldn't worry about research or anything because like the 30 things is how you get into the habit. Because I remember I used to overthink things in the past as well. Like when I first started, I was like, oh, why don't I make all the videos in one day, then schedule it out? It would be more efficient. Why don't I do all this research and then that way I can make videos that actually work? But then I didn't do anything for like 2 months or more because I was like, "This is too much work, I don't like doing it." But if I had a goal that was like 30 videos in 30 days, make 1 video every single day, and the video does not even have to be posted. The video does not have to be an official video. It can just I started out just by filming half of my face for 2 seconds and then slapping some text on screen and some random music from TikTok, and that was a video. So your videos don't need to be good. You don't need to post them. What matters is that you get into that habit. And then when you do, the momentum will just carry you forward and then you'll start doing more. Because what I see a lot is people getting burnt out before they even started. I have this friend who wanted to post on TikTok and he was like, Jen, I need advice. Like, I'm posting all these videos, they're not getting views, I'm getting discouraged. And like, also, this is not fun for me. But I have this goal, and it's really important for me to build my own business online. And I was like, "Well, just be yourself." Like, I look at his videos and he's, like, trying to copy other creators where he's, like, you can tell it's not natural, and he's, like, trying to muster up the energy. So I told him, like, "Please just make this fun for you and then worry about the rest later." And then he messages me a bunch of messages, like, I woke up to, like, 40 texts, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, this is so fun. I just made, like, 10 videos in one day, and I'm just, like, posting whatever. I really enjoy this now." And then he started posting regularly for, like, a month or 2, and then both him and I took a break from content creation, and then we always went back to it, which goes back to what I was saying about being okay with imperfection, and that's how you get consistency. And then after he posted all the fun videos, a bunch of his videos actually got millions of views. He got 5 million views on one of his videos and got a bunch of followers, sponsorship requests, and things like that. But that only happened after he spent like a month posting videos and like having fun with it. And he told me that one of the most important things was, like, I told him to be himself, and the other thing was detaching himself from the likes and views. So, like, if a video didn't get views, he's not getting discouraged. He's coming from a place of curiosity and asking, "Why didn't this get views?" And then once he's able to deconstruct it, like, he basically acted like his own coach. So he deconstructed it and was like, "Oh, this is why. So next time I make a video, I'll improve on this." So the antidote, I think, to that perfectionism and like to not feeling discouraged and burnt out, even after posting these videos, like the 30 videos, I would say is curiosity, because he was like, why didn't this video perform well? So he was curious rather than feeling hurt that people weren't seeing his efforts. So that's why in my course, I teach about the 5 whys analysis, which is when you ask yourself why 5 times to get to the root of an issue. So if you're like, I feel discouraged from building my business, then you ask yourself why. And it's like, well, it's because I'm not getting views. And you ask yourself why these views are so important to you. And then you keep asking why. And then by the end of the 5 whys, it's more likely that it's like a personal insecurity or a limiting belief. And then once you get to that root cause, it's like, well, the problem isn't that you're not getting views. The problem is like you feel like your self worth is tied to these external numbers, where if you, like, fix that not fix, but, like, if you adjust that, then maybe you would be more consistent and improve your videos like my friend did, and then he hit 5 million views.
Mhm. Mhm. That's a very valuable advice. Thank you for that. Where is the best place for people to dive deeper into your work, into your content? Where can they connect with you?
Yeah, I would say it would be my YouTube. A lot of people would expect me to say Instagram or my newsletter because those are my biggest followings. But I actually share a lot more in-depth things on YouTube, especially when I screen share all of my graphs and stuff I track for my business. All of that is on my YouTube. It's under the same name, Vegan Tech Nomad, but there's playlists for the business stuff instead of the productivity stuff.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much, Jennifer, and have a nice day.